Now, it's our guest choice this week. Paul Farley, you're up. Tell us what you chose and why.
It's an album by a band called The Fall, who are still alive and well and with us, and it's called Hex Enduction Hour, and it came out in 1982. And I chose it. I bought this when I was 16, and they weren't allowed to display it in the shops front side up because they thought the cover was too ugly. It looks like a toilet wall. It's just all of this kind of scrawled. The most prominent being "Have a Bleed and Guess," which is a kind of clue to the contents therein and its impenetrability and so on. I was really intrigued by it and bought it and got into it. That's what we used to do. We used to get into music and sniff the album and look at the run-out grooves to see if there were any secret messages. And it's just become this kind of touchstone record for me that I go back and listen to every couple of years and see how I've changed or how it's changed in that way that you do with things.
And it hasn't fallen off. I mean, I think that's rather touched because I absolutely know the experience you describe, and being at an age where, as it were, the more difficult the album was, the more determined you were that you were going to like it.
That's right. But this isn't, I guess I'm making it sound like prog rock or something, or there's some big, there really isn't. It's not coming out of that tradition. It's coming out of, I suppose the nearest thing would be Velvet Underground or German.
But it's kind of
groups.
post-art and listening outside of music, you'd think it was kind of Dadaist,
right?
That sort of thing, wouldn't you? I mean, it's a strange, very strange. I mean, we can just hear a little bit. This is from a song called "Hip Priest," I think, which you've identified as typical of the album.
Drink the long draft down for the Hip Priest. I said, drink the long draft down for the Hip Priest.
I'm going to reveal that you laughed when you heard the falsetto coming in there, Paul. Presumably you didn't when you were 16 years old.
I took it a lot more seriously then, but now things like him breaking out into falsetto, not really being able to sing, the kazoo, even the fact that they had two drummers at that time, so they were like the glitter band on top of the Pops. I just think that's wonderful. I absolutely adore all of those things about that group and this album.
Antonia Quirke, what did you think?
So much of this album just rocks, and it is incredibly modern, or rather you can hear how music has got to where it is within it. I mean, particularly New Order, Happy Mondays, and particularly just there, a bit of Jim Morrison, Violent Femmes, utterly, Jarvis Cocker, comically, Radiohead profoundly, particularly the guitar at the beginning of track 7, Winter 2, which is a dead ringer for the opening of Creep, written 20 years later. And also, in many ways, things seem to me to be very American and not particularly Manchester in a way that Joy Division were. There's a real Lou Reedy thing, garage, chaos in it.
You've done a kind of DNA dissection of this, but did you actually like it?
Yes, a lot. Yeah, fantastic. I'm very happy to have been introduced to it. Thank you very much. I also thought it's like kind of Lenny Bruce about it. I mean, this stand-up ramble messing with pronunciation. The way he says the word Nazi, he says, "Who makes the Nazis?" in a way that Lenny Bruce would say. I mean, it's fabulous.
Liz Forgan, what about you?
I've got a peculiar reason for hating this, and I think that if all the listeners know of The Fall was that track, it's not, they won't understand what I'm going to say. The reason I hate them is that at the time this record came out was the beginning of Channel 4, and in my life it was a time of unbelievable sort of hope and enthusiasm and excitement and a belief that there was a sort of new cultural dawn. We were all rushing around wagging our tails, and it was wonderful.
You were working at Channel 4, for those who don't know.
I was working at Channel 4, and out comes this group that everybody in the world says is simply wonderful, and they pour buckets of audio over every single green shoot of joyfulness or hope, including, I think at the time, explicitly Channel 4. And I absolutely, John Peel, I later came to work at the radio. John Peel used to always go banging on about how absolutely wonderful they were, but I have not forgiven them, and I won't yet.
Paul Farley, you can answer.
No, they're totally, especially at this point, they're totally anti-metropolitan as well, which you would have picked up on, and also the kind of self-aggrandizement of Smith at this time. All the young groups now they imitate, but I teach from Hip Priest, which you just played, and a fantastic rant called Deer Park, where he takes a walk down West 11 and had to wade through 500 European punks, and then just absolutely wades in to this scene, which doesn't seem to have changed so much in 20 odd years, however long it's been since it came out. So totally anti-metropolitan, and in a funny kind of way, a little bit like Harrison, you know, in a different life. He could have gone that kind of curmudgeonly way, I think.
I think the strange thing about The Fall is you get a lot of rather blank and nervous faces when you mention them to people. They occupy a very strange position, a unique position in many ways in British pop, because there have been so many different members of the band. I mean, if you just look at the track listing and who's written what on it, I mean, people he'd been involved with before, people he's now involved with, people he's going to be involved with, and this kaleidoscope of musicians and dramas and comings and goings with Mark Smith right there at the centre. It's very hard to get a handle on what they do and who they are, and there's always the possibility they're going to morph into something else entirely. I think that worries people.
He did famously say, if it's me and your granny on bongos, then it's The Fall, and it is. But this album represents the kind of it's like geological time frames, you know. And this is the first great band, and this is the kind of apex of that.
I have to confess I had kind of real difficulties with it, partly because I just simply didn't have time to persevere, I think. I mean, it was one of those where you play it through the first time and you're kind of listening slightly open-mouthed. I mean, because I was astounded, one, by the recklessness of the incompetence in certain kind of areas, you know, the fact that they just don't care that they can't sing. And then they have, a kind of set of driving beats and riffs which are kind of very attractive. And so you think, I'll listen to that again. But I just didn't have time to get beyond that first sort of shock in reaction to it.
That's exactly what attracts me to it, the power of it. It's indigestible, but it's fiery as well. And it makes so much of what gets passed off as rock now just seem really weedy and underpowered.
Do you care about the lyrics too? I mean, do you think...
Yeah.
But, I mean, then you have to read them off the liners, don't you? Because they're completely inaudible.
But he doesn't have liners, he hates liners, and so you have to kind of work it out. But there's loads of choice lyrics, and there's lots of non-sequiturs.
So it's kind of Zen dedication. It is truly the 16-year-old in his bedroom, you know, listening to it night after night and painstakingly reconstructing it like a medieval monk, the exact nature of the text, and then sharing it with others.
Yeah. And it annoyed the hell out of my parents as well.
Okay, well, Hex Enduction Hour by the